So we finally got things to work just before I speak, so that's a good sign. It's nice to see some of you here, some of your familiar faces that have kind of coming part. Today, I'm going to talk about the white paper, and I think you've heard many excellent presentations from the speakers today. So what I plan to do is to distill some of the points that we have raised, and also to raise some of the issues of my own, and more importantly, to ask the question, what's next? And to me, one key point in this whole Hong Lim Park issue is it presents us with an opportunity. And how we redefine nation building. You know, previously, it's not surprising that we always look at nation building as being top down. Singapore is what the government tells us to do. The government is the PAP is the government. Some of you will say that. But I think Hong Lim Park redefines all that. So I want to talk a bit more about this as a final point in my presentation. But to start off again, today I speak in my personal capacity and not linked to any institutions that maybe related to me. Okay, and this is a short synopsis of the coverage today. I will talk about the white paper, how it makes us more worried as Singaporeans. And then I'll talk about the process, what has failed. Here, two points will be raised. One is on, it should be a green paper rather than a white paper. It's not just an issue of color. The second one is on the whip, not really the physical whip, but the party whip. And some unresolved issues which are very important, and mainly income gap and social mobility. And to end off, we're looking forward, or where do we go from here. Now, these are the things that Singaporeans worry about. Right? So you can disagree with any of these points, but I think it would be quite accurate. Characterize this increasing income gap, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, stagnating wages for low-income workers. They then will tell you that the effective rate is 0.1% over the last 10 years. So if somebody earns $1,000 in 2000, a low-income worker will earn $1,010 in 2010. So $10 improvement over 10 years. So housing prices is an issue. Overcrowding of transport, if they work, is another issue. They have been making time because of that. What it means to be Singaporeans? Are we a nation of where the relationship between the government and you is one in economic terms? I pay you to come here. And not surprisingly, there's no loyalty involved. So somebody was circulating an article about PRC students who said, oh, more than 50% of the people who come here, we don't honor our bonds. So that is the kind of relationship that we have with our new foreign friends. Competition for scholarships, the cost in a parliamentary question was 150,000 per student. That's a lot of money. And 50% of whom are not going to honor their bonds in Singapore. So what is the cost of that? Competition for jobs, and the government not consulting on this thing, which is one key problem that we have right now. Now we look at what the white paper does to all this. So these are all the things that make you and I worry at night. Now, okay, we put a smiley face with the white paper improves it, and a worry-wart face with the white paper doesn't improve it. But if you see, these are all the worry-wart faces. But I am confident that nobody is going to follow the way I characterize it. No. Everybody agrees? Yeah. Good. So in a nutshell, that's where we are, and that's the real reason why Singaporeans are so unhappy. Now let's look at process. Okay, forget content first. I think the process is important. To me, it should have been a green paper and not a white paper. Some of you may remember that we actually have issued a green paper. And what is the difference? So it's not just an issue of color. The green paper is issued in a lot of countries, especially Commonwealth countries. And the green paper is a platform to encourage public consultation. So it's issued before the dish is cooked. So you've got an idea what you want to do. You have certain proposals you want to test out with people. You issue a green paper, not a white paper. Now, a white paper assumes that everything has been finalized. And you are now in the final stage before Parliament, before you pass law. That's where the white paper fits in. And that is the process in most developed countries. So after the white paper, you have formal presentation in Parliament, and then if there's a lot enacted, it will be enacted. So white comes after green. Right? And actually, in our Singapore rules, it's not alien. It's there in the Singapore parliamentary rules. And it's defined for the green paper. You can see in the parliamentary rules. And, sorry for the low resolution picture, but that is an actual green paper that Singapore has issued in the past. This was issued by then PM Gold in 1988, Agenda for Action Challenges and Goals. Now, this was, I think he was talking about what the Singapore values at the point in time. And I would argue that what we are seeing in the content of the white paper are of a similar nature, because we are looking towards green paper. We are defining what the physical space is for Singapore would be, what the social space would be, and it should have been a green paper had there been a sincere attempt at consulting the public. Now, my argument is, okay, we issued the white paper, so what next? So I've argued for the reissuance of the green paper, and I think it's fine, rather than not have a consultation. In fact, Canada issued a green paper in 1975, after the legislation was being passed. So even after the laws was passed, the Canadian authorities thought, okay, let's have a consultation. And the topic was population and immigration. See, that's the kind of issue that we're looking at. Now, I move on to another issue of process, and that's the whip. So if they don't have an actual whip like that in Parliament, don't ask me where it is. I think you all are familiar with party whip, right? Party whip is there because it asks the MPs belonging to one political party to draw the line, right? And the current party whip is Gan Kim Yong and Amy Khor and Teo Ho Pin as the deputy whip. So the person who decides when to leave the whip is the party leader. Now, in 2002 onwards, the PAP relaxed the rules in the party whip. It says that we will lift the whip on issues of conscience. So the MPs will then go to their conscience rather than follow the party line. Right? And there were, I think interestingly, when you look at the debate in the white paper, I was told that some of the PAP MPs were personally not happy, and they had expressed unhappiness in Parliament. I was told that the first time they learned about the $6.9 million population target was at the same time the white paper was issued. These are PAP MPs. And I think they are human beings like most of us, but because the whip was not lifted, they were constrained in whether they could vote with their conscience. So we have a situation where 7 PAP MPs did not vote. I think the list, Lee Kuan Yew, this is from the parliamentary records. Chia Shi Lu, Raymond Lim, Alvin Yeo, Inderjit Singh, Indari Raja, and so these people did not vote. And we know that out of the 7 MPs Inderjit Singh, very strong views about the whip. Now, because the whip was not lifted, if they had to vote according to party. Right? So because they did not vote, they are not caught by the whip ruling. So some can argue that there was quite an ingenious way of getting out of the predicament that you have personal issues about it, so I don't vote on. So I don't vote, then you can't enforce the whip against me. To me, that's a backdoor way of addressing the problem. And the problem is that the whip should be lifted. Now, there were 2 instances in the past where the whip was in fact lifted. In 2002, there was an issue related to the review of JC and upper secondary education. Yes, it's important. And 2009, the Human Development Fund Act, and they count for short, again the party was lifted. But is it as important as the white paper? I would argue not. In fact, the white paper was a significant event. The party should have been lifted. Okay, enough of that process. And now move on to the issue which I think was not sufficiently addressed in the white paper, and that's the issue of our first speaker mentioned that Singapore has a very high Gini coefficient. This is another chart that shows how Singapore compares to underdeveloped countries. This is a mix of OECD statistics and DOS. So we are actually, according to this metric, I mean, there are some, depending on the way it's being measured, there are some charts which shows that we are number 2, according to certain developed jurisdictions. But in this chart, we are surpassing that of the US and the UK. Now, okay, some may argue that, okay, you're not comparing apples and apples because Singapore is a city-state, and in the US there's Montana, where people farm potatoes and all that. So you're not comparing like for like. But even if you look at absolute numbers, it tells a different story. But before I get to that, what are the causes of inequality? I think one key point would be the liberal immigration policy. With a number of top income earners at the top. So you inflict at the top and you push down the people at the bottom. Lack of progressive tax for high income earners and technology for redundancies. Now look at these charts. This is based on EOS data. So this talks about different deciles from top 10, 20, 30, all the way to the top 90%. Over 2000 to 2012. Now if you look at the chart, if you look at the top decile line, it goes exponentially high from 2006 to 07 onwards. It just shoots up. So the gap gets a lot larger. When you look at the blue line here, it's really a flat line across from 2000 to 2012. This is a $10 over the 10-year period. Right? So this is a huge gap. This is another chart that shows this based on per household member. Again, the figures are there. The gap is really widening. You extrapolate to 2030. If you extrapolate an increase in immigration, it's just going to shoot up even more. This is another way of presenting it. And this looks at distribution of income by deciles. Now, the top 20% are in the purple and the green bars. At 2000, okay, maybe that's the top 20% earn about 50% of all income in Singapore, among Singaporeans. But by 2012, that number has encroached past the 50% mark. So probably closer to 55, 54%. But if you look at the bottom 20%, it's hardly, in fact, there is a slight shrinkage over the 12 years. And this tells the story that the rich are taking more of the pie. And this is based on income. It doesn't include other measures like assets. So if you include that, the chart will even be skewed even more. But there's no data for that. So to me, these are the issues that we need to worry about, because the white people will make it even worse. But there are stories about the ultra rich in Singapore. Some of you might have seen an article of people paying $25,000 for a cocktail, and there are families where the sole income is $70 a month. I know of a case where the family only has one meal a day to save money. So the family of four has one meal, a porridge meal every night. I know another family where they switch, they have a cash card for utilities. They take it out at night, so there's no electricity at night when they speak. $25,000 for pay. Now, so income inequality is a big issue, and it's not just the case that you feel envy because somebody there is earning more than you. Studies have shown that income inequality causes lack of social mobility, how you progress. And this other metric is quite important. It talks about intergenerational mobility. Intergenerational mobility, to simplify, is how you as a child fare relative to your parents. Now this is where less is more. So the bigger numbers are actually bad. Now if ironically, we talk about the American dream. Some of you who watch Hollywood movies, you make it safe to get rich. Now the American dream is not in the US. In Denmark. If you want to do well, go to Denmark. So the 0.15 means that there is 0.15 simplified means a haircut. So your parent earns $10,000, you are likely to earn $8,500. Whereas the haircut is more for the more developed countries. Now, so if you're in the US, if your parent earns $10,000, you are likely to earn about 47% less. Less than that. So it's actually more. So the bigger numbers are actually worse. The smaller numbers are good. So it means that if your parents do well in Denmark, you are likely to do better. But in the US and the UK, if your parents do well, you're not likely to do as well as you would be for somebody in Denmark. Now, okay, where does Singapore sit in that? There was a study done by some social studies academic staff in Singapore, which put Singapore at 0.45. And this was based on the studies in 2007. And if you argue the figures, actually, the studies actually suggest that we are between the US and the UK. Now, this means that generational mobility is a bigger issue now than it was previously. It makes it harder for children. Let's say if you're a graduate and your child is a graduate, it's harder for your child now to do as well as you are right now than ever. And this is also a function of income inequality. Now again, when you think about what the white paper means, because income inequality, less intergenerational mobility, it is going to become a bigger problem. Now, moving forward, where do we go from here? Please identify yourself in the picture. So something I snapped from my iPhone on stage. That's really amazing. Now, after Hong Lim Park, what was the reaction? I think that if you look at the Marine Parade website, you will see these words: emotional, unbalanced, nonchalant, and important issues. It was a reaction, not a response. Now, I think it's arrogance. There's no attempt at listening, and it ignores that these are in fact emotional issues. It affects our future and identity. And it also ignores the fact that it's the unprecedented, the largest civil protest imposed independence in Singapore. All of us are part of it. And I think the consequences of that, it further widens the divide, it further widens the divide between the state and the people. If they continue to not listen. Now, after Hong Lim Park, so we got this very dismissive tone. You guys are not emotional, you're not listening to anything, considered not present. But bear in mind that when Parliament passed the white paper, PM said, let the public debate continue. But the problem is, there has been no articulation of how or in what form, where they are continue. And now when you have Hong Lim Park, your first reaction is to dismiss it. I think there's a huge disconnect there. And also, Mr. Hemsley Cat, when he was asked after the Parliament passed the white paper, you have your SG conversation. Okay, you forgot to discuss the white paper, never mind, maybe, it was a slight omission on your part. But what are you going to do after that? As of 10th February to today, it's more than a month, where he said he will issue a formal statement. We have not received a formal statement. And I mentioned this point. Has mentioned public debate must continue, but no indication how, where, and when. But to me, it all points down to towards a new norm of nation building. And I think we need to redefine nation building. And Hong Lim Park, history will judge Hong Lim Park as a very big milestone for Singapore, because people have empowered themselves to seize that right to decide what Singapore's future will be. It's no longer a top-down process. We have redefined nation building, you and I, ladies and gentlemen. So it is the new norm. It is a case where the state-sponsored process has failed. It issued a white paper when it should have issued a consultation paper or a green paper. Secondly, it should have been discussed in SG conversations, but it didn't. But even till today, there has been no attempt at addressing that gap. Now, here I'd just like to issue a reminder, to share with you a reminder for all of us from the US. And this is the real question of Obama. I'm there and scientists in the building. Now, Mr. Obama said this, and I love this phrase. He shared this during his visit to Israel with a bunch of Israeli students. He says this, and let me state this as a politician. I can promise you this: political leaders will never take the risks if the people do not push them to take some risks. You must create the change that you want to see. Ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things. Your voices must be louder than those who shall have hope. Your hopes must light the way forward. Wonderful words.
And let's give Mohan another pen. Yeah, now we have a Q&A. It's almost 5, but I will bargain for 20 minutes of the time. But I think we can extend for another 20 minutes. So there are 2 microphones here. I need David to actually post on the mic. So David will pass you the mic when you want to ask a question. But you can actually raise your hand. And I think, let's start this. But maybe this lady first. You can ask any of the speakers any question. Go ahead. State your name so that we know who you are. Right.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tia. I've seen a lot of proposals that is brought up. My question is this being brought up to the entities of government so that they know? Because a lot of times they say they are making noise, but they are not giving solutions.
Can I answer that question?
The answer to you is yes, okay. We are trying to get Sembawang GRC, okay, to talk to us, okay. So the proposed date is on the 25th, this Monday, okay. But I haven't had the time yet. And about, I think it is 30 over of us is going there, with another 100 over invited. So yes, we will certainly want to have a dialogue with them. Okay, thank you.
You want from the floor? Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So basically, I would say a few things. First thing, right, the government can solve all the problems that are created with this population increase. You know, right, the government, GLC, they control about 30% of the workforce. So that means the government, in corporation, can adopt disadvantaged workers first policy, mothers, older workers, disabled people, and there will be no more kind of unemployment that we face today. So it's basically the government, they can control it, therefore they hire foreign workers, they hire young viable candidates instead of the people who will be unemployed. I also have to say another thing. HDB, right, I don't think they cost that much money. You know, right, they sell the HDB 5-room flat for $373,000. The actual fact, right, according to the Far East organization, to build a HDB 5-room flat only costs $120,000. That is 60% profit. So that means like government can now say, let's reduce the price by 30%. Because 60% is profit. So that government can say, let's reduce to 4.5 years of income. Actually, you can reduce to 2 years of income and less.
Okay, thanks. Just a young man here, this one, 10 years of this undergraduate. Anyone? Maybe you best to ask a question rather than you give a speech. Ask a question, please. Or else you will go at 7.
Hello. I thank you to all the speakers today. Okay. I just want to request a question of request. Okay. Whether I can use your quote and unquote during the Monday dialogue with our MP. Or, sure? Okay, thank you very much.
We will want you to stick to asking a question so that it's easier for us. Anyone from the floor? Commission? Yeah, sir.
Really good kind of into all your opinions. I just have a question because recently I read this report from Gallup on Business Journal. They actually highlighted Singapore as a very peculiar case. We have a very high population to payroll ratio, but we have a very low thriving rate comparable to countries like Angola. And they are saying that, is it because these government leaders, they are focusing on the wrong metrics? So my question to the panel is our government just focusing on GDP? Should they start now focusing on things like gross national wealth, which in some studies have been shown to be the precursors to more GDP? So maybe I can get the opinions from the panel, some of which I think have better knowledge on the issue than myself. Thank you.
The answer is yes, we are focusing on the wrong metrics.
That was good. Actually, they haven't developed a national well-being metrics that needs to be
Actually, this one I don't have any statistics. But in the interest of answering the question, I think you can see of late, all of a sudden,
some people are waking up from years of struggle.
Yeah.
So that is a good sign. So like people say, keep pushing up. Push, and then like you go to follow, you push, you come out. So as the lady was asking about solutions, I think my response is this: if with all the resources behind the government, and we get such lousy solutions, how do you expect ordinary citizens who don't have access to all the statistics, everything we ask we don't get? How do you expect us to come up with solutions? It's I'm going to be simplistic, As you can see, there are other nations like Norway that similar problems, similar demographics, similar size. They have done a tremendous job, in recent history. Why don't we learn from them instead of always trying to come up with uniquely Singapore policies, 6.9 million.
I want to mention one metric that should be quite reliable, not 100%. The metric is birth rate. If the population is happy, you can follow the Amin index.
Lawrence.
I'm Lawrence Lee. I'd like to address this question to both Mr. Leong. There was a WikiLeaks cable transmission which I sent to Gilbert about the MOE statement about the number of places in universities in Singapore tertiary institutions. According to Cheryl Chan from the Ministry of Education, Singapore doesn't need more than 20 to 25% graduates every year. So they are only reserving 20 to 25% of the places in tertiary institutions for Singaporeans. So where do you think the 80% places in universities and tertiary institutions go to?
Who you want this to be answered? It's first time.
Mr. Tan, I addressed this question to Gerald Giam of the Workers' Party. I also addressed it to Dr. Chen Sao. Both of them have nothing to say about it.
I think you read the statistics wrongly. Now Singapore needs 25% to be graduates, so that the 75% don't have to be graduates, they can do other kind of work. The Singapore University, the places, 80% are going to Singaporeans and 20% are going outside. Okay. Now the problem in Singapore is too many parents want their children to be graduates. Therefore, they send to Singapore, they send to England, they send to elsewhere, and that's because our economy is not paying non-graduates fairly. Our paying graduates, the gap is too big, and that's very wasteful. I have got poly graduates who are not academically strong. They go to university. These people will be better doing other kinds of work that the skill are suitable for, but they must be paid adequate salary. So our gap, which is very bad, I say Singapore is a very wasteful society. We spend our resources educating people in jobs that they never put to good use. Okay, so I think that's what my point is. We must restructure our economy, our jobs, and our salary. If not, we continue to go down the road of being wasteful and being high cost.
I just want to agree with what Mr. Tan has said. Is that the figure is actually of the cohort. So it's 25% of the cohort for the university, which some people think is a bit low, because I think Korea now is 50%. But the reason why everybody wants to go into the universities is, as he said, because the salaries are so low for non-graduates. And that has to be addressed. You go to Japan, you go to Australia, you see the construction workers, they're all local, because they're paid very highly. In Japan, a construction worker is paid about twice the median wage Whereas in Singapore, they're paid so poorly. So who wants to be a contractor worker? They all want to get a degree and get a job which pays them well.
Actually, I have a different perspective to the question. I believe I have the statistics for this one. Done quite a number of analysis on university data over the years. You see, 20% of the first year undergraduate intake is given to foreign students. Okay? So you left with 80%, right? Of the 80%, they are locals. So how many are PRs? We don't know. Right? So let's say now PR population in Singapore about 15%. So you say 50% of 80 is another 12%, right? So you add 12 to 20, you have 32. So in the first year, you're looking at maybe about 32% of the first year students are not Singaporeans. Then you come to second, third, fourth year, depending on what course you're in. Now, anecdotally, I understand that in the second, third, fourth years, typically you will have Singaporeans who will transfer out or go to overseas or whatever. But the foreigners typically, guys also will go on because, you know, they are on tuition grant scheme or scholarship, right? So come to second, third, fourth year, by the time they graduate, I believe this 32% will have increased to maybe, I don't know, 33, 34, 35. But so far, I'm only referring to the undergraduate population. You go at the graduate schools, anecdotally, like 80% of the graduate schools are all non-Singaporeans. So if you take the total enrollment of all the local universities, I estimate about 40% are non-Singaporeans. That, I believe, is the highest non-citizen ratio of any public university system in the world. Another world first, uniquely.
This especially to Paul. We have this extraordinary increase in population. I just wonder whether we have increase in the intake for the medical schools. That's number one. And if they are going to build another four hospitals, child polyclinics, where are they going to get the doctors from?
That's a very good question. There has been an increase in the intake in the medical schools. But, you know, the problem is, so there's been a huge increase in the population, right, from 3 million to 5 million. The medical schools can only stretch so far because they're limited by the size, to build labs for medical students. When I was a medical student, the first day I walked into medical school, 8 of us stand around one dead body, and we have to divide it up and study the anatomy and things like that. So it's very resource intensive. But I think there are two answers to that question. The first answer is we can easily staff the polyclinics and hospitals if we break the barrier between the public and private sector. Like I said, you've got all the GPs who are very experienced, who have left the public sector. See, 80% of the primary healthcare in Singapore is delivered by GPs. The only 20% is delivered by 80% of the doctors actually are in the private sector. And these are the Singaporean doctors who are out there who are cutting each other's throat, undercutting and doing all kinds of silly things. Okay? But these are the people who could be staffing the polyclinics. But the reason is they're not. And they're not because they leave because of push factors, because of all the administration, the bureaucracy, the fact that the salaries are low, that they are being undermined by this race to the bottom by bringing in people who are willing to work for lower salaries. So I think there has to be a comprehensive approach. You're just trying to do it piecemeal, say okay, we build more, and again it's a hospital-centric approach. So you keep people in hospital. A lot of people in hospital shouldn't be in hospital, but the reason is the government doesn't build any nursing homes. See, all the nursing homes are run either by DWOs or by private operators. So people are sitting in hospital, they cannot go to a nursing home, they don't have the resources for home health care. You cannot use Medisave for home health care. So a lot of people find it, they don't want their parents to be in hospital, but they have no choice. Because the parents go home, they fall. They get back into hospital again. See? So it's a very, as Kenyan was saying, it's a very wasteful system. Because you spend a lot of money on the most expensive part of the healthcare system, where you should be strengthening the primary healthcare.
And I think, unfortunately, part of the reason is a question of trust. See, the government doesn't trust the GPs. They think that the GPs are out to scam them. If they give them subsidized care, then the GP will, go and buy a BMW and try to cheat the government. And it is true, one or two of the GPs will try and scam them. But the reality is, most of, when we interview people from medical school, why do you want to be a doctor? I want to help people. And along the way, they become corrupted and cynical and all that kind of thing. See, but the bottom line is, if you're a Singaporean doctor looking after people in Singapore, see, your motivation should be to have a basic, decent standard of living, and then to really do what you're trained to do, rather than trying to do the work of a beautician. So I think the problem can be solved, but it requires a change in mindset. It requires you to trust people. It requires you to actually, let people who you don't control. In public hospitals, you have control. You have all the rules and regulations and things like that. In the GP sector, people often go there because they have more freedom. You can do what you want. You can prescribe what you think is the best drug for your patient or things like that. So it's going to be difficult, but I think there are possible solutions.
My another follow-up question is, if you are talking about universal coverage, insurance coverage, does it mean that we do not need any polyclinic?
Yes, definitely. The polyclinic, you only need a very small number now, because the GPs essentially are doing most of the primary health care. So if you trust the GP, you give him subsidized medication, if you let him dispense the subsidized medication, it takes the burden down from the polyclinics a lot.
I have a slightly different perspective from labor policy. You go to the hospital, the first person you meet, typically you will not be a Singaporean. Then when you go for financial counseling, also not Singaporean. Go to the reception, also not Singaporean. The nurse also not Singaporean. The doctor also not Singaporean. You check out on the cashier also not Singaporean. Now, I think how you can confirm this now. The problem with the hospital system is you go strictly according to the labor policy. You don't employ any Singaporeans at all, right? Because as long as you employ people who are employment past 3,000 above, you can have 100% in the hospital, all foreigners. Even if you follow what you call the 55, 25 rule, you can employ 5 PRs, 2 S-Pass, 55 PRs, 20 S-Pass, and 25 work permits. Also 0 Singaporeans. So I think the healthcare sector is, at least from a labor perspective, can be subject to 100% absolute abuse to put Singaporeans last time.
Actually, I have to clarify. There are two jobs which the ward clerk and the porters are still Singaporeans. The salaries are below the S-Pass level. For cleaners, they even have foreigners. I don't know how they manage to do that, but some of the cleaners are foreigners, but the ward clerks and porters are still below the S-Pass level. So those are still Singaporean. But every other profession is open to foreigners.
Every year they are projecting 25,000 new citizens, 30,000 new PRs. So when you see the person is a PR or citizen, actually yesterday he probably wasn't there.
Okay. I'm an undergraduate from NTU, and after listening to you all, I have a mixed feeling inside, because when I matriculated into my university during my poly time, I was full of optimism that if I become graduate, I will learn a lot of money, and then you get a lot of advertisement, you can earn how many thousands of dollars, And then after now I'm in my 4th year, I'm doing my final year project, and I feel my life is like very meaningless. And in my 4th year, I have not learned anything much except accumulating the knowledge from the textbooks. I have not feel myself any wiser from my learnings in university, except maybe to train my analytical skills. I feel that university in Singapore has let down Singaporeans, and I feel that as someone mentioned, it's like the university are being overrun by foreigners. I don't think it's untrue, because even the 20% doesn't feel like anything less than even 20% or 30%. And I noticed there are certain trends in university that I want to highlight to the public. Maybe they will feel, if they are feel puzzled by why there's so much foreigners in university, they may have some clues. Where sometimes in my campus, I saw that they bring coaches, buses of foreign students, especially from China, some as young as primary school children. They come in to have a tour of our school and tell them how great our country are, our schools are. I feel that there's some kind of mastermind, some kind of plot, conspiracy behind. I feel so worried. And what are they trying to do with these people, bringing them here? Shouldn't we be promoting our university a chance to Singaporean? Why are they so foreign-centric? I'm not against foreigners, but I think that there's in fact more than. It doesn't feel like there's 20%. Even 20%, I feel that is too much. If someone needs to investigate across all universities around the world, is really the 20% really the standard? Should it be 10%? Because when I went to exchange in foreign university, the foreign population in other universities accounts for probably just 5%, right? And if really the government say there needs to be cultural exchange between universities, then you displace 20% of our students from university. Why not give another of these 20% of our students who are not able to secure a place in our university, go to sponsor them another 20% to foreign university? That would be fair, right? We don't give them the 20% of the place for Singaporean, give the 20% to a foreign university. So that would be fair, And
I think we have to go and sorry, because we did need you to ask a question. First, we end at 7 o'clock. Oh, sorry, yes, sir. Yeah, maybe one last two questions before we go. Because we are running over time. Listen,
I'm Wilson Wong, US, some of you have saw me on Facebook. Very simple. Right now is that we Singaporean guys have served 2 years of national service. Last time it used to be nearly 3 years, 2.5 years. So, in your view, how can we actually make it us a bit more competitive instead of So the thing is, how can we as Singaporean guys want to defend the country and yet feel that we're defending a home and not an organization, and not a corporate organization? Thanks.
I think the way to deal with this is, I believe that's probably one of the only ways, is to make citizenship more exclusive. You cannot be giving out citizenship too easily. Otherwise, there will be no point being what's the point that the Singaporean will serve the nation, and a person can come in at age of 30, use the education system, use whatever, and do not have to do national service. It's okay, if it's PR and citizen, it's still different. But if you allow a large number of citizenship, then that will dilute the meaning of the Singaporean and the meaning of national service.
For 30 years, I have held the view that NS is destroying Singapore. Because it's too long, you put the males at a big disadvantage for life. And that's why people are marrying later, girls are marrying foreigners. So we have to recognize this big problem. NS should be 1 year, not 2, not 3. And it should be paid adequately, or else it should be properly rewarded.
Let me share a quick anecdote. I was working with the bank. Yes, now I'm actually jobless because I was retrenched because I was still working. And I know that it's a practice that they actually invite people who earn a lot to be citizens. So I knew someone at the bank who was at the managing director level. They invited him to be citizen, just like that. He didn't even apply for it. But I think this is an instance where there was some gaming involved. Because I would take it up, but for my sons, that's not take it up because they have to serve because his kids are teenagers. So it's a case where people pick and choose. And the reason for him to be in Singapore is because he enjoys security and the peacefulness and the efficiency here. But you question where is the commitment to be a Singaporean, where you define things
economic terms. So it's that whole very relationship that to me is problematic.
My anecdotal experience is the reverse of yours. I met a cleaner in a food court who is like 70 years old, who is a citizen, but he's actually from another country. Then his wife, also from the other country, also a citizen, because the daughter was also the other country, became Singaporean citizen because married, another person who used to be a PR and then later on become citizen. So at least you MD, you invited a citizen, this one MD, the whole family of leaders also citizen. I just want to address the young man's thing about NTU. You know, in 2006, NTU had the highest mean salary of the three universities. So today, I don't know whether it's the highest, but like I said earlier, that's what you call the real pay has been going down. But like what you said about after 4 years, you feel that you have learned nothing. Okay? I tell you why. I have a friend who was a professor at NTU, just died a few years ago. At 55, they cut his pay to half, and he had cancer at that time. Okay? So, I have another friend who was denied tenure because he tried to teach his students too much for years. So, the way things are going in the universities, and Paul to this, is nobody cares. Right? Why should anyone try to teach you something? And that's why you say you learn nothing. So they try to teach you, they might be denied tenure, or at 55 the pay cut in half, or cancer also cut in half. Right? So the system has evolved to a state where, nobody cares. Right? And the other reason I think one is not learning very much is that in the last 14 years, government spending on university students per capita only increased by 0.4% in real terms per annum. So your GDP is growing 5% per year roughly, then your university per student, you are only increasing 0.4% in real terms. So where is all this GDP going? To the reserves, all this, they're not putting it back to the university sector. That's why maybe you learn, but in the way it's good, when you learn nothing, that means the kid's still happy. So, you have more room to learn, which is the more important thing in life. There is something else you don't go,
I told you I'm here in my personal capacity, but I have to say something. On the 16th of February, I saw so many people from the university on Hong Lim Street, Hong Lim Square. So I can tell you that there's plenty of hope. There are enough people who care about the students. So in the future, I'm sure you'll see plenty of them on 1st of May. So don't worry about it.
Well, I teach in SMU, so you probably should come to my class. I told the students, you are only required to understand 80% of what is in the textbook, the 80% that you know, and don't bother about the last 20%. Have more time to read the newspaper and attend forum, because I think we overteach people. The 80% that you learn is enough to pass, and what you learn you can remember. The 100% you learn, next year you forget. That's what I said. So how to make sure? So let's give a hand to all of our speakers.
After 16th February and after today, I don't feel so low.